Record now. All right. Breath or pranayama is the beautiful layers of our body, not just the physical body, but towards the more subtle body with the awareness, with the soul, with the consciousness we breathe. And we're going to learn how to do that as we strip through each of these layers. And that's a very important aspect of pranayama. It's beyond just the physical. So we're penetrating literally the walls of consciousness. And what I mean by that is whenever you feel stuck or an obstacle comes in your way, or you're feeling irritated or frustrated, something happened and you get triggered. Most of the time, what happens is you are reliving a trauma. You're in your mind. You've got a trigger response. So the best way to eradicate this is to do this incredible pranayama practice, which I'm going to teach you today in some really simple techniques that can really help center you and ground you immediately so that you can let go of the hold or the grip that you have on life or your particular circumstance in this instance. And I just want to share something about the breath, just to state the obvious. The breath keeps us healthy. And we can live without food for 40 days. You can live without water for 3 or 4 days. But try to stop breathing for 10 minutes and tell me how you go. Probably not so good. Breath is essential. And by breathing in, we take oxygen into the body. So the cells rejuvenate so that the lungs can expand. And when we exhale, we release the carbon dioxide. Yeah, so we rejuvenate the cells. So this is what we call prana or life force energy. So in order to think properly or have more clarity or release stuck energy, the breath is going to be the master key for this. And don't just take my word for it. There's scientific facts on this. It's actually, there's a term for this. It's nitric oxide, which is a chemical that we produce in the body, particularly when stress levels rise. This also produces another chemical called cortisol, sometimes referred to as the stress hormone. And it really is a stress response. It's whenever we get triggered, cortisol levels go up, which is stress levels. So it's very important that we balance this and alchemize it. And the breath helps us do that. The oxygen that comes into the lungs literally get a cleanse. They get purified. And we do this by doing some exaggerated breathing techniques, which we're going to do in a moment. And this really helps to purify your entire system. Your red blood cells get a chance to be replenished. Okay? Now, we also need to think of our body as a holistic system, not just the lungs and, you know, the brain and the mind, but we have the digestive system, we have the nervous system, the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system, the endocrine system. Breath influences every single system in our body, full stop. So when we get excited about something or nervous or something frightens us, we contract the breath. Yeah. But if we get excited and something makes us happy and joyous, and the breath becomes freer. We're not as contracted. Yeah, we're breathing at a much slower rate. the pace slows down. So initially, when we're learning to breathe, we do need to exaggerate some of the techniques. But then when you become much better at this, the more and more you practice it, you won't need to feel like you're needing to practice this every single day. It will just happen naturally. In fact, it's a beautiful reminder and something that I used to do early on in my training when I was learning meditation and yoga, was to set my alarm literally that every hour for that whole day, on the hour, I would stop to breathe 12 deep breaths. That's it. On the hour, every hour for the whole day, 12 breaths, 12 conscious breaths. Slow in and slow exhale. Not only did that make me feel incredible and centered and grounded, but it actually transformed my life in ways that I can't even begin to tell you. So when we bring consciousness and intention and directionality, purpose, if you like, to the breath, we literally begin to break through these layers of consciousness. We start to strip away the limited self, I'm going to call it, that keeps us small, that keeps us safe and limited from being the truest expression of who we've come here to be. And the quickest way that I found to that place of super conscious being, so you can access your superpowers, is through doing these breathing techniques. It's just that simple. Now, I just want to say something else about these next few practices that we will do together. Your mind is very powerful, and it will try to stop you and sabotage you and give you all sorts of excuses as to why you should not practice this. Now, having said that, let me also state this. It is very important that you listen to your body as well. So you must use your discernment here, that if something doesn't feel good or painful, or you start feeling dizzy or sick, literally, then that's your cue to stop or slow things down. I highly encourage you to do that. Always trust your body first and just use my guidance second. And I just want to make sure that you do go and read the description that I've left for you, which is just stating some precautions that you need to be aware of before you start any pranayama breathing practice, okay? Particularly if you're bleeding, menstruating, or pregnant. So please make sure you read that before you practice pranayama. And one last thing that I'd like to mention, as I said before, it's not just about the physical body. It's learn to work with the mind. Our breath is connected with the mind. As I said, when you feel very upset or angry or agitated, your breathing is a lot more shallow. It's fast. But if you're calm, it's a lot more slower and relaxed. So it works both ways. And we can start to influence our state of mind, our state of being through the breath. Okay, and we must initially exert a little bit of mental effort. And it does take a lot initially to sit and do the practices. Like I said, your mind will want to check you out and be like, nah, it's too hard, don't want to do it, it's too difficult. It's like with anything, any exercise. If any of you have ever tried to go to the gym to build muscle in your body, initially it is a very challenging concept for the mind to understand and interpret, because you're going through all sorts of pain to grow the muscle in your body, and the mind says, no, it's too sore, I don't want to train today. But we all know that in order to build muscle, you must go consistently, repetitively, or a continuous time in order to see results. This is just how we work. The mind is the same. You've probably heard of the term neuroplasticity, a big word, but literally our mind, think of it as a plastic. These neurons can be reorganized. And hence why affirmations and intentions, which we will set before we begin our practice today, are super powerful because you're directing your conscious mind towards this outcome as if it's already happened. Now, pranayama, the actual meaning, prana, as I mentioned before, is life force. And yama means expansion. So expansion of life force energy is literally what pranayama means. And we're going to do this together consciously. It's to be aware of your breath, learning to control your breath, cleansing and purifying your mind and the deeper layers of your consciousness. And so when we reach this place, you start to expand. Your perspective changes. It's that simple. And breathing at that point becomes effortless. Life breathes with you. Okay, so it's important also that you don't force too much in the pranayama practices that we're going to do. Never force to breathe. So if something doesn't feel comfortable, you need to have that awareness to relax. And I'll keep reinstating this as we go, but it should not feel like too much effort or uncomfortable. And then eventually we become the observer of the breath rather than the doer of the breath. Okay, so it happens naturally by itself. You just allow the breath to unfold. So we begin to observe our own self. At this point, you've reached higher states of consciousness with no drugs required. Okay, so